Good Thursday morning to you and yours. It is our town time here on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. My name is Darren Swinson, the host of the program. And the program each and every week is brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust. We'll talk to the city managers of Decorah and Waukon a little later on in the program. Travis Goedken from Decorah and Gary Boden from Waukon. We'll preview next week's Allamakee County Fair with Diana Davison from the Allamakee County Fair Board. We'll get things going, though. The Wolfpack Theater Group is back in action this weekend in Waukon, putting on Footloose. We'll talk to three members of the Wolfpack Theater Group, and they will start our program. Curtains up here on Our Town. It's brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust. You're listening to it on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. Always fun catching up with the folks from the Wolfpack Theater Group. They have a presentation coming up this weekend. It is Footloose, and talking with three members of the group right now. And as we look at you from left to right on our screen, just introduce yourself and what role you will be playing in Footloose this weekend.
Hi, my name is Olivia Enyart. My stage name is Anna Mariah Rainey, and I will be playing Ariel.
My name is Stephen Shogren, and I will be playing Ren McCormick.
My name is Brian Wires. I will be playing Travis.
All right. How'd you guys, we'll start with you, Olivia. How'd you guys decide on Footloose being this summer's production?
Usually we do a vote of sorts among the older members, and then we figure it out from there.
And Stephen, what has been the most enjoyable part of putting this production together?
Everyone's been coming to practice, and we have all been having such a good time with each other, learning the dances, meeting new people, and every night has just been a positive vibes, and we're just very glad, and we hope to have that back on stage with you.
Brandon, what's the most fun about being part of this Wolfpack Theater Group?
Getting along with the cast members of this play.
We're all a big family.
And I know most people are probably familiar at least a little bit with Footloose, but Olivia, can you give us a little bit of background without giving away any spoilers, of course?
Definitely. So Ren McCormick has just come to the small town of Beaumont from Chicago after his dad left him and his mother. Now, in Beaumont, dancing is illegal, but Ren here really loves to dance. So, does he figure it out with the town council and finally allow the town to be able to dance again? Or do the kids just continue to be silenced?
And we'll find out this weekend. Stephen, is there a little bit of Ren in you?
For me, I'm usually more of a quiet person, but when I'm on stage, I'm a completely different character, and I am having fun just dancing and bringing fun vibes with everyone.
And Brandon, how long have you guys been working on putting this thing together?
2 months we've been putting this together.
And Olivia, back to you. Tell us when the presentations will be taking place this weekend.
Our presentations will be taking place on the 10th through the 12th. And those dates will be, the time will be at 7:30. Excuse me.
All right. And Stephen, for those that don't know where you put on your shows, where does it happen?
It takes place downtown in Waukon at the theater.
All right. And Brandon, how can folks get tickets perhaps in advance, or is it just a case of showing up at the door and enjoying a fun night of community theater?
Get tickets at wolfpacktheatercompany.lotus.com.
All right, let you guys give one final sales pitch for folks to come out this weekend. Olivia, we'll start with you.
Don't forget that even though there are tickets online, we do have a few walk-in spots in the theater, so be ready for those. I would suggest getting here early, but I do think this is going to be a really good show, one of our best, one of my favorites, definitely.
And Stephen, tell us, give us the commercial for Footloose in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, if you want to be a part of this fun dancing group, then come and join us here at the Wolfpack Theater downtown in the theater. And we'll bring the fun to you, and we just want you to be out there and to have a good time.
And last but not least, Brandon, it's your turn.
Well, this is going to be a show you do not want to miss. It's going to be a fantastic show.
All right, it's always fun catching up with the folks at the Wolfpack Theater. Olivia, Stephen, and Brandon, we appreciate you taking a few moments out of your rehearsal time this evening to preview the show with us. Thanks for joining us, and best of luck as you put all your hard work to fruition this weekend.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
Wolfpack Theater Group Footloose Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at the Waukon Theater. Next week, it's a fun part of the year. It's the Bigger and Better Allamakee County Fair. It runs next Wednesday through a week from Sunday, the 16th through the 20th. Diana Davison joining us from the Allamakee County Fair Board. And Diana, just with everybody involved with the fair, how much work goes into making sure that those 5 days are a memorable one for the folks in Allamakee County?
Yes, lots of work gets put in. The work kind of never stops as this fair will end. Next fair's prep is already started. So it's a labor of love and we wouldn't change it for anything.
And let's look at some of the entertainment next week. Let's go with the grandstand entertainment. Why don't you run down what's folks can see in front of the grandstand?
Yeah, absolutely. Wednesday night opening, we have our local truck and tractor pull open to all pullers. You can find that information on our website with the Fair Royalty Pie Auction. Thursday night is the motocross, also in the grandstands. Friday night is May Estes and Shane Profit. And Saturday will be the Rogue Rodeo. And wrapping up on Sunday afternoon with the Tough Trucks, also open to all local entries.
And from what I understand, you can purchase tickets online. How do people do so?
Yes, you can purchase your ticket booklets online or at a lot of businesses in Allamakee County, like the banks and the farm stores.
And many other events going on throughout the fair. Of course, the grandstand are ticketed entertainment, but there's a lot of things going on the fairgrounds that are free of cost. Tell us about some of the other entertainment that will be going on throughout the course of the fair.
Yes, absolutely. Friday is our Kids' Day at the Allamakee County Fair, which you're not going to want to miss. Lots of local interactions. We have lots of local livestock shows with our 4-H and FFA. Those kids work so hard year round with their animals. Also a labor of love. Checking out the static projects in the 4-H building and the open class building also has community members from all across Allamakee County bringing projects in. Other things that we have going on is amazing food trucks, a pizza trailer, Kymar Acres, Elsie's Kitchen, so many options. The 4-H food stand, dairy stand, lids in the grandstands. You're not going to go hungry when you leave Allamakee County Fair.
I see there's a hot dog eating contest as well. Tell us about that.
Yes, that is brand new by the City Meat Market in New Albin. And it's literally what it says it is. Hot dog eating contest. Who can get it done the fastest?
And
how
not
many?
pardon me, sorry for the interruption there. Not to be outdone. Obviously, there's a lot of food to consume at the Allamakee County Fair, but you can run off a few calories Saturday morning as well.
Absolutely. With our 5K run, that will be our second annual this year. We're super excited for that as well.
And some Sunday worship coming up on Sunday morning. Where will that be hosted?
That will be in the show barn at the Allamakee County Fairgrounds. You're not going to want to miss it. It is spectacular to be a part of. The show barn is just large and immaculate.
Of course, any fair isn't what it is without a midway as well.
Yes, we are super excited to have our midway back this year.
All right, that covers everything on my checklist. Anything else you feel the public needs to know about the fair coming up next week?
Parking is free and admissions to the grounds is free. So come on over to the Allamakee County Fair. We're so excited to have you.
All right, Diana, we'll thank you for taking a little bit of time to preview the fair with us. We thank you and everybody else with the fair board and everybody involved with the fair for the work they put on to put on this great event. Thanks for the time. Best of luck with the fair next week.
Thank you so much.
Diana Davison, she is with the Allamakee County Fair Board, Allamakee County Fair, bigger and better coming up the 16th through the 20th. Having our monthly chat with Waukon City Manager Gary Boden. And Gary, earlier this week, a group of Waukon residents made a trip to Des Moines. Tell us about that trip.
Well, they gave a presentation at the invitation of the Iowa Economic Development Authority to try and get designated as a thriving community. There was over, I think, 20 applicants, cities that filed for a request to get this status. And Waukon was one of 8 that made the finals. In other words, they had to give a presentation to justify why they wanted to be a thriving community. What that means is that when there are grants or opportunities related to economic development through the IEDA, that there is a preferred status established. You see most big cities having this designation or gaining this designation, but cities our size, it's rather unique. And we've had a pretty significant story to tell for what we've been doing to get this status to begin with. And my understanding is people are hopeful that we will obtain this status from this presentation. We won't find out until September whether it's been granted to us or not, though.
Does that make you feel good about what the city has been able to do when it comes to the issue of housing, knowing the fact that folks at the state level are seeing what you're doing? And I shouldn't say I use reward for lack of a better term at this point, but recognizing what you're doing?
Yeah, it is. The recognition's not just through this process in and of itself. I mean, there was recognition given to us last spring when we went to a housing conference, a rural housing conference, and a rural economic development conference in Ames. And presentations were made about us then. I think one of the things to understand here is that it's nice to have that recognition. But then the next question is what are you going to do next? And I think that this city has some very significant decisions to make in the next couple of years as to what direction they want to go. It's been demonstrated that we can make some stuff happen here. The question is whether we continue or whether we'll hold back. And a lot of changes are occurring here in our city, inclusive of having a significant election coming up with a lot of elected positions to be filled. Some, I assume, through incumbency, but a lot of changes have occurred here in the last few years as far as our elected officials. And I think that that's going to continue on. And the real question is for those people who are incumbent and those who would like to come forward and provide leadership for our cities is what do they see for a vision for our community? And that kind of blends over into the fact that we're going to be doing a comprehensive plan process here starting up in about a month and a half. And that's going to not just enjoin the elected officials, but it's going to join a lot of people in our community to try and have this discussion. It's been a long time since we've done a comprehensive plan, and quite frankly, the one that we have that's on record right now probably has not had the kind of thought put into it, mainly because I think a lot of people didn't think that there was things going on or we could make happen in this community that we have now made happen. And now there's, I think, an attitude that, there are things that we would like to do and see happen in this community. And as a result, we need to plan for it.
So when it comes to this recognition, would this be a fair analogy? This recognition isn't an end goal. It should be another step in the process. Is that a fair way to put it?
Absolutely. In fact, it's probably a significant initial step. Okay. I think the real point here is that, okay, we're doing this stuff, or we have done this stuff. We have proven that we can do stuff, meaning development. Whether it's redevelopment of downtown or building apartment buildings or duplex subdivisions or doing a subdivision itself that also has a significant retail component. We've done that. We're doing that. And I think the real question is what do we do next? And what is it that we can do to enjoin interest in Waukon as far as development's concerned? Can we get more industry or manufacturing? I mean, we have a lot of issues related to our ability to do that, particularly as it relates to transportation. But the larger issue is whether, in fact, we're prepared to try and take on industrial expansion, for instance. I think that without this thriving community designation, we probably wouldn't get much consideration. But that's not to say that we're going to have a big factory coming here. I think, as you can tell by what we have for actual industry in this town, it's all agriculture related, and I don't see it changing much from that perspective.
And when it comes to the issue of bringing jobs in and having housing, is this the kind of the ultimate chicken and egg situation? Because a major employer probably isn't going to come to a place where there is no place to for people to live, but at the same time, you need that housing to attract that major employer. Is it a chicken and egg situation?
Well, to a degree.
Okay.
I don't think this is a Dyersville situation. Build it and they'll come.
Okay.
We have a significant need for housing in this county, in this region. And the fact of the matter is that we've done some things to try and create housing opportunities. Again, this is not a Waukon market. We're talking a market of 30 miles, 20 miles around. And, other than what's happened in Decorah, there really isn't much going on. We had some opportunities that we took to make these things happen. The builders likewise are making commitments, but it's not like they're just out here saying, okay, well, we're going to build some houses. We hope somebody will fill it. Or we're going to build some apartments. We hope somebody will fill it. There's plenty of market analysis out there to suggest that there's plenty of opportunity to build into that market. Now, without apartment housing, as an example, for people that are looking to work in a manufacturing situation, commute to Decorah even for that matter, the circumstance is we need to have that housing, but then also if somebody shows up, they see that there is some housing available, but they also know that we have the capability of making more happen. We had an interest. I don't even say it was a proposal. It was just almost a passing interest a few years ago about a meat packing plant that was looking for a site, not only in Iowa, but they were looking at sites in Wisconsin and Minnesota. And while it was just an inquiry, it really didn't amount to anything. But the fact of the matter is that, the first question I asked when we saw this opportunity to respond to an idea was where were we going to put these people? Because we didn't have any housing for them. So we're going to have housing, but I don't think we're going to have empty housing here. I think that the housing that we have is being developed in two phases in both projects. So it's not like somebody's going to just drop 72 units on us right away as far as apartment housing. We're going to get 36 units, but the capability of adding more is going to be contingent upon the existing market, not on going by guess by golly and hope that somebody else will come in and fill these houses or these apartments. But that's all in the context of why we have to get a thriving community designation, why we need to do comprehensive planning, and why we need to have a community that gets engaged in to try to develop a vision for what our community could be. It's probably, I think that we've kind of got past the idea that nothing can happen in Waukon. I think we've gotten past that. But I think the real question is just exactly where we want to go next.
Earlier this week, the council approved a exhibit table for the Housing Iowa conference that will take place in September that you alluded to earlier. What's the goal of having a table at that conference?
Marketing Waukon. I will be in attendance of that, and what we're going to do is market Waukon, and this isn't really marketing it to try to sell Waukon in a broad sense. This is really targeted toward developers, and we've been challenged by trying to get developers to come in and do our projects. Part of it is due to our location. Part of it was due to the economy affected by COVID. But we have a product that we can sell, which is Waukon. We have a demonstratable product that we can sell. The rafters are up on the first building of the apartment complex as we speak right now. So, and we know that there's more opportunity. The real question is to try and engage developers to come in and do what we need to do. We have some local builders that are even working on some of these projects in town, but I don't think there's enough of a base here for them to actually say, okay, I'm going to start building a subdivision, or I'm going to start building an apartment complex, as far as the financial capability is concerned. And for that matter, as far as the coordinating efforts of a large scale project. We haven't seen that much in this community for quite some time, but we are now doing. So that's what we're going to market. We're going to market the fact that Waukon has a capability of doing this, and it has a demonstrated capability of doing this.
And is it at that conference that the Thriving Communities designation will be announced publicly?
That's my understanding.
Okay. So hopefully Waukon can get some good news at that conference. On another subject, I know this was on the agenda earlier this week, but will be discussed at your July 21st meeting regarding fiscal year 2026 general fund expenditures and revenue projections. How important is it from your perspective to have these discussions at the beginning of the fiscal year to know where the city is at and know where the city needs to go?
Well, I view the opportunity to do these things in somewhat of a planning effort. Realize that, yeah, we just did a budget, and the budget was approved. Actually, the budget was approved 3 months ago. We are only about 5 months away from starting the next budget. And I think that what I'm trying to do here is to provide not just what's going to happen next year, but let's talk about a couple, 3 years out, financial planning, if you will. This isn't the only effort that's going to be brought forth to the council as far as the discussion is concerned. We're also going to talk about capital improvement, financial planning, and the status of our debt structure right now, which quite frankly is incredible, given what we have for interest rates and what we're paying as far as development costs. But the real issue is what's going to come forward. Where are we going to be? What can we anticipate? What should we try to strive for? Some of the things that are happening right now actually are to our detriment. Through the budget bills that just were passed in Washington, D.C., the community development block grant program has pretty much been wiped out. We were counting on CBDG to help us pay maybe as much as $500,000, $550,000 in funding for reconstruction projects in our city. That money's gone. Simultaneously, with property tax reforms that have occurred in Iowa, our ability to grow our tax base is limited because of the law. And as a result, we're going to have less capability of borrowing to do reconstruction improvements. So it's not all good news. I mean, we're going to have to be a lot more deliberate in our planning for redevelopment, let alone development. Tax increment financing is still a significant option for us to do new construction and some reconstructions in our downtown area, for instance. But I think that while we talk about what we got, we also need to talk about what we need to do to maintain. And it's a task that I think a broader base of our community needs to understand as far as the challenges and the opportunities that we have.
I don't think I've ever asked you about this. I think we've talked a lot about the property tax reform bills that have gone at the state, and some of them that did not get through the legislature this year. Has the property tax reform that has been passed at the state level, has that affected tax increment financing at all?
Not yet. I don't know whether it will or not. I can say it has impacted it in an indirect sense. I've talked about this before. Right now, the way the first property tax reform, which occurred 2 years ago, has impacted our ability to grow our community from a standpoint of tax base. New construction is not counted in our tax base as far as an expansion. Instead, it's kind of looked at as, okay, you got this new tax base, you're going to apply that against existing expenses, not to expand expenses. Okay, I get that as far as why that's happening, but the whole issue of how that impacts tax increment financing becomes significant, because how TIF works is that you're banking on the idea that new tax base created, which certainly involves getting our economies, our local economies, to flourish. That money can't be diverted anymore toward paying off the new increments that we developed through TIF. Now, I haven't seen that impact yet. And the reason why is that the new construction that we have really hasn't hit the tax base yet. Although it's going to start hitting our tax base in the next fiscal year. And it's going to have an impact on us from the standpoint of, okay, we're growing our community and we're diverting some of that tax base so that we could have more housing, so that we can have a larger market for our retail opportunities. But if we're using tax increment financing to help offset the initial investment costs, I'm concerned. I'm truly concerned, because I don't think the drafters of this law clearly understood the impact. And we were still at the same place last year when tax reform was talked about, and we were talking about the impact of tax-based growth. But the whole thing kind of shut down this year, because it was clearly identified by the state legislature that one size doesn't fit all. They want to go after, I think, some really big tax bases, like big cities. But we're all under the same laws, and as a result, going after those big cities crushed small cities. And to be honest with you, they realize that at the end, but they're still trying to figure out what they want to do. My guess is that there's going to be some huge idea, let alone, I don't know whether it'll pass or not, but there's going to be a huge idea about restructuring maybe all of how we do taxing in Iowa. Sales tax, property taxes, whatever kinds of other fees or whatever. I think that there's going to be at least some attempt to try and figure that out. I don't know whether the capability of doing that is going to mesh with the politics of the day. We still have a state, and for that matter, a region, that, believe it or not, is actually low taxed. Although people see that the property taxes go up, and they see this going up and up and up, prices go up too. Prices for what we have to buy to run our city goes up. I don't know how you address that without any changing of a tax structure. I don't know whether there's even political will to do that right now, because you're going to see that if you make overhauls in all your taxing, there's going to be winners and losers. The question is how you sort this out. But I can tell you that even under the existing tax laws, cities not our size, but cities smaller than us are struggling. There's no question about it. And that's really an economic factor as anything. And how you tax for municipal government versus county government versus schools are probably different, because the motives for what we do are different. And whether you're trying to do property tax reform in and of itself, that means you got to deal with school funding. You got to do with human services fundings or human services kinds of things that go on at county governments. For cities, we're in the economic development and property maintenance business. That's it. We develop, we renovate, and we protect property. That's all we do. It's a lot different mission than what you'd see with a county or a school government. But to address taxing almost the same way is very difficult to do, because we have different purposes.
That's what's on my Microsoft Word document. Anything else you want to pass on from the city's perspective, as long as you got the forum?
No, we're waiting and seeing. I think that what we're going to do here in the next couple of months is prepare and have enough understanding on the table for what's going to happen for our community in the future. It certainly will lay out a whole lot of information and decision-making points for not just the city council that's coming in, but the new city manager that'll come in.
All right, Gary, appreciate the time, the information, and the knowledge as always. Thank you. And as always, go Cubs.
Yeah, no question about it. Thanks.
Gary Boden, the city manager of Waukon. Having our monthly chat with Decorah City Manager Travis Goedken. He's on a tight schedule this week, so we ain't got no time for the pleasantries. Travis, give us an update regarding the Decorah Athletic Complex. As for the revised plan itself that went before a work session of both the City Council and the Parks and Recreation Board, where is that plan at?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, appreciate that, Darren. So the athletic complex, we are back out to bid with that. This time it includes, again, still 2 baseball, softball fields, 280 feet fields. This time, however, it does include 8 dedicated pickleball courts out there. We did remove the hard surfacing of the parking lots and a couple other of the amenities. We kind of downgraded, essentially, to bring it back within budget. But at the end of the day, there's still a $1.5 million fundraising goal, and right now we're sitting at roughly $300,000. So we need to get on that fundraising to make sure this project gets awarded yet this year.
And what's the timeline for it potentially to go before the City Council to award that bid?
Mm-hmm. So that'll be our first meeting in August, which I believe is the 4th, is the first Monday in August. That's when we will hold the public hearing on the plan specifications and hopefully award a contract to the lowest responsive bidder.
And the city council voted last night to ask the county for some help. Is that correct?
That we did. Staff here, we put together the numbers of city residents versus non-residents that are registered for our rec programming. And roughly 38% of those unique registrants for 2025 summer programming are rural Wenatchee County residents. And so we don't charge any difference for registration fees or any user fees for that matter, whether you're a city resident or a county resident. So with that, we're going to ask the county to help contribute to this project that's overall going to benefit all residents of Wenatchee County, not just Decorah proper. And so that we're going to ask them for $500,000 towards that $1.5 million contribution.
Dare I ask, why don't you charge differently for a non-city resident as compared to a out-of-town resident?
Mm-hmm. Largely that's an administrative issue where if Park Board wants to set the fees that way, certainly can. Then we need to rely on the honor system that when people register, they're telling us that they're a resident or a non-resident, giving us the correct address and not grandma's residence, something to that effect. It's something we'd rather not deal with. That sounded bad putting it that way, but it's difficult to track if you're not following the honor system. And so a single one-time contribution towards the construction of this, $3 million project out on the edge of town, right outside of Freeport. We think this is going to be a easier ask for the county to do one time than to try and increase the fees for non-residents.
The last time we had a conversation, we talked about replacing water meters throughout the city. How is that process going in its early stages?
So it's going really well as far as the response rate. HydroCorp did reach out to us and let us know that they sent twice the amount of people that they originally had dedicated because of the city's response to get those water meter swaps scheduled. I believe they said that 2,000 appointments have already been set up across the city, if I remember right, and they're replacing. Last week they replaced about 380, if I remember the numbers correctly. So the number is going very well. We are having a few leaks being reported, and it's really important for the residents. You should be handed a card by the service tech as they're leaving. You should be handed a card that has a phone number. If you have issues, please call that number on the card so that HydroCorp can come back and deal with the issue. You can still call City Hall, and we're happy to help here, but the most direct and effective way is calling that number.
Getting back to a parks and recreation issue, there's been a lot of discussion regarding the use of trails related to biking and also related to equestrian use. The council, I should say, made a ruling on that at its meeting this week. Tell us what that was.
Mm-hmm. You're right, Darren. A lot of discussion for about the last year. And so last night, the council confirmed what's been referred to as the 5 of 8 plan. So it's essentially 5 miles of trails within Van Penen Park that are going to be signed and approved for shared equestrian use. So horses will be allowed on, give me a second, I can name them off. I got them written down over here on the side. So horses will be allowed on Fire Road, Pines Connector, Pines East, Pines West, Prairie Loop, Rocky Road, and the North 40 extension.
How do you come up with 5 of 8 when you just listed 7?
It's 5 miles.
Okay.
5 miles. The 5 of 8 is 8 foot wide. So it's 5 miles of 8 foot wide.
All right. How is that the way it's going to be moving forward? Is that for a certain period of time where maybe the city can look at it 6 months from now, a year from now? Where does that stand?
That was the council's intention. They stated when they made the motion that this is a pilot year. We'll put it in place for a year, evaluate trail conditions and overall how it's going, and reconsider it in a year as well.
One thing I learned last night by monitoring the city council meeting, always good to pay attention, that there's a pretty major state Highway 9 project coming next year. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's really important for residents to know next construction season, Highway 9 will have a pretty major full depth reconstruction project on the edge of city limits from essentially the 52 and 9 intersection east to it'll stop short of what is the side street there by that goes back by like Goedken Engineering, goes back to Commerce. Anyway, it goes just east of the underpass, largely meant to lower Highway 9 so that they can get rid of the height restriction on the south lane with that overpass there. That's a big part of their project is they want to shave off that crown so they can get rid of that height restriction. But in addition to that, they're going to do some adjustments to the intersection with Park Street with the grade, but they're not going to do any kind of dedicated turn lanes, not signalized, no improvements to that effect. But one of the key components that we discussed is the Iowa DOT allows a city to add components to their bid project that we're responsible for paying for, but they will put it out to bid, award the contract, and do the contract administration as well as carry the cost for us for about 2 years. And so with that, we are going to blast about 20 feet of the rock face on the north side of the highway back so that in the future we can come in and put a multi-use trail sidewalk of some sorts along that stretch from Park Street to Short. And that way people can get away from walking on the shoulder.
All right. Do we have any idea of when that will take place next year, or are we too early in the process to determine that?
They haven't gone out to bid for it yet, but it will. I would venture a guess that it's going to be pretty close to the full construction season of 26. It's important to note that it will have continuous traffic flow through it, where it will allow for, there'll be lane restrictions. So it'll be, as opposed to a 4 lane right now, it'll be 2 lanes of opposing traffic, and then they'll switch to the other side and do 2 lanes of opposing traffic there as well.
Speaking of construction projects, how is Highly Street coming?
Oh, no, it's going well. I laugh because the contractor's dealing with some supply chain issues as well. So we'll get an update on what the plan is for even just the next day, let alone the rest of the week. And that might change as of 7 o'clock the next morning because material showed up. And so we've attempted to keep the neighbors all well informed and do press releases. However, this project has been changing by the hour as to what the next step is. But all in all, the crew's doing a great job out front. We're receiving a lot of positive feedback on the multi-use trail that was an addition to the street reconstruction project. And council did discuss last night, we're going to do a little bit of a change from the initial design on phase 1. We're on the west few blocks, we'll call it nearly 2 blocks. The original design had the 10-foot sidewalk on the north side so that when we were doing the WHKS design of the College Drive Bridge intersection, we were going to modify that north side of that intersection to allow for traffic to go, bicycle and pedestrian traffic to flow easily along that north side. Well, in theory, that sounded great, but in practicality, there's a lot of difficulties by trying to get people to cross on the north side of that intersection. So instead, we are going to pivot and direct most of that traffic, actually all of that traffic, to the south side of Hively and College Drive intersection. And we'll put the shared use trail on the south side of Hively for the first 2 blocks, and then cross it at or around Mill Street.
All right. One more thing that on my notepad this morning, it is in regards to the building that you're sitting in right now, as well as the law enforcement center, the police station. From what I understand, improvements to that will go before Decorah voters this November, or that at least is the plan as of right now. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is the intent. Last night, the council ranked the statement of qualifications that we put out, or that we received from our RFQ that we put out, on helping us evaluate the best path forward, the most cost-effective route, I should say, because there are other considerations council might take into account besides the cost effectiveness. But ISG was the top scoring firm, so I will begin negotiations with them on a scope of services agreement to evaluate the existing building and what the estimated cost of meeting the space needs for the fire department by renovating and adding on to this existing building would be versus a new construction for the fire department on this site with those same space needs versus option three is keeping it's a new construction, but keeping all the existing services on site as well. And largely that'll help us determine that increment. What's that difference between option 2 and 3? And maybe our best path forward isn't necessarily paying for a brand new building for administration, park rec, city council chambers. Maybe it's a longer term lease that is more cost effective. And it's a way we could also help partner with a developer to create a shared use space where maybe City Hall, Park Rec is in the lower level and then residential above.
All right, that's what's on my notepad. Anything else on your Microsoft Word document, or are you an Apple guy?
No, unfortunately, I say unfortunately because 9 times out of 10, technology works fine, but that one time, that's all you need. We are Microsoft here, and so looking quickly at my notes, I do want to commend the community and thank all our local media for helping get the message out about fireworks this year. Our police department, knock on wood, only had to respond to 2 calls for service this year regarding fireworks of people shooting them off where they shouldn't be or outside of those hours. So most people did comply with state law. And quite honestly, just anecdotally myself, I sat out on my porch just kind of listening and saw how things went. I did not hear a lot, even on outside of the rain days. I did not hear a lot of fireworks. So I do want to commend the community for following state law.
Travis, appreciate the time and the information as always. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much, Darren.
Travis Goedken, Decorah City Manager. Our thanks to our guest on the program this morning, the Wolfpack Theater Group. Footloose taking place tonight, tomorrow night, and Saturday night at the Waukon Theater. I want to thank Diana Davison, Allamakee County Fair, bigger and better Allamakee County Fair, next Wednesday through Sunday in Waukon. And we thank our city managers for joining us, Gary Boden from Waukon and Travis Goedken from Decorah. Don't forget, we put these shows on YouTube each and every week. It's summer. You got a lot of things going on. Don't always have time to be near a radio or a smart speaker or a streaming device at 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning, but we talk to interesting people about interesting things and informative things. And we want to bring you those interviews on your schedule. Go to 710 Our Town Program on YouTube, and we also put the links up on all of our Facebook pages. That's the best way we keep in touch with our communities, because without you folks, none of this would make sense. Thanks to our sponsor, Decorah Bank and Trust. Thanks to the 4 guests on the program this morning, and we thank you, that's right, you, for tuning in, for logging on, or for watching Our Town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River.